Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Sandy Allnock. I'm an artist and I work in a lot of different mediums. And today I'm going to show you something that I worked on during my Christmas vacation. Because yes, I work during my Christmas vacation and it took me a few days to do, and I didn't want to not show any of it to you because the technique that I'm using in this piece is actually really similar to what I use with colored pencil and markers and graphite. All different kinds of mediums can benefit from this same thought, and I think it's really well illustrated in pyrography. At the end of the video, I will show you a couple quick clips of how you can do the same thing in other mediums, so stay tuned for that, and let's get started. Now, some of you are going to be asking, what in the heck is pyrography? Well, I did some pyrography a couple years ago, and this kit has been sitting in my drawer waiting to be used. I keep seeing people posting beautiful pyrography and have been wanting to get back to doing some. So my Christmas vacation was my little moment to take a couple days to do this piece. So I wanted to do 3 flowers. I found 3 of them at different angles, and I wanted to change the color in them and kind of make it all come together in this round piece. And with pyrography, which is wood burning, it's really hard to make a line that has variance to it. At least for me. I'm new enough at it. I don't really know what I'm doing. Someone could probably come to this video and tell me all about all the things I have done wrong and how I'm using the wrong nibs for things. But whatever. I use the nibs that I have. The kit came with a couple of them. This kit is no longer available. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's a bad kit, and maybe that's why I struggle. Maybe someday I will get a new one and see if that helps. Anyway, in order to make these lines disappear, because I didn't want this to feel like a piece that had a lot of outlines on it, my challenge to myself was to do enough shading to make the lines disappear. And the way you do that is by putting value next to the lines that is about the same value as the lines themselves. Without darkening the lines, you need to be careful not to go back into the line and add more darks. There are some places where I will do that, and then I have to make my shadows even deeper in order to hide the fact that I made that mistake. And then with wood burning, if you hold the tool in place for too long, it will start burning more heavily, so you have to keep it moving. You can't just daydream while you're doing this. You have to keep your hand moving, keep the tool moving. This one has two little pyrography tools, two of these things, and you can turn the heat from one to the other. So you can keep 2 nibs at the ready, and it heats up in a couple seconds. So if I want to switch to a different nib, I can do that pretty easily with this particular kit. I have no recommendations for a kit since this one is no longer available. I can't say get this one, but then again, if it's not for sale anymore, maybe it wasn't any good in the first place. So that could be a thing. So here is where I'm trying to repair some places where I just put too much value in those little tiny corners. And you can see I ended up even frustrated. I didn't even film the next part. I darkened the whole flower because I had to keep getting darker in order to hide those lines. So finally moving on to the next day and doing the other flowers, because it took me the entire day to do the first one. And then the next day I just got up really early and I worked all day long until very late that night and just sat there and burned wood. This is about 100 and probably 40% faster than I work. That very first part at the beginning was how slow it goes, because this is nothing like with pencil when you can just kind of lay some down, use other tools to smooth it. You are literally just burning the surface and trying to control how much you're burning it in order to get those values to work. But you can see I also finished that flower. Did not film a whole lot of it because it was very frustrating to keep darkening and darkening and darkening. But all those lines are gone. Those lines are no longer visible there, which is awesome. That was part of my goal. Was, there's a few places you can see a couple of them, but this does not feel like a really linear piece in that way. because I just kept working toward the lines. On this last flower, as I was kind of jiggling around drawing the petals themselves, I made my line jiggly enough that it kind of comes out as a broken line. And I'll talk about a broken line in the latter part of the video, because I'm used to being able to do that with pencil, where I can get heavier when I know there's going to be a shadow there. But if it's going to be a really light edge, I don't put down a whole lot of pencil. And here I couldn't really do that. There's not really a way to control a line, as far as I know, in a way that's going to keep it really soft. I mean, you can work with the pencil lines, I guess, but you need to have something to end the line out there. And I suppose I could have just not done any outlining and done the value all the way up to the edge. But I don't know. I don't know enough about this to know, but I know enough to be dangerous, but not enough to actually do it right. So there you go. Once you get a hang of how to draw in one medium, this is kind of one of those bits of evidence that all you're learning after that is technique. Because the idea behind hiding all these lines, my goal in this to hide them, comes from all of my other mediums that I use all the time. So I wasn't learning any of that. I was learning how to apply it with this tool. And if there are mediums that you've wanted to try and you just think, oh, that's too hard for me, I can't do that. If you can get the basics down in graphite or in colored pencil or whatever, the basics of drawing, they're going to apply to everything, just like the basics of color theory applies to all the mediums. And those basics are the foundations that I keep screaming into the wind, sometimes it feels like, because they feel like they're hard work. They feel like, oh gosh, I have to practice that. Well, yes, you have to practice that because that's how you get better at it. Now, this is practice, but it's not practice that's not fun. So find things that are fun to practice on. But I was talking to another artist recently, and he was just doing a whole page full of spheres and boxes and doing shading on them. And, we were texting back and forth, and he's showing me what he's doing. And I'm like, so dude, like, you do amazing work and you're sitting here doing lines and boxes and spheres. And he said, yeah. He said, I do it because it's good for me. He said, it's like eating my vegetables. And if you agree with eating your vegetables, you should agree with doing your foundations on a regular basis, doing that all the time. And I'm like, okay. So I sat down and I did a whole page just like he did, full of very generic shapes. It was not super fun. It was not super exciting, but it felt good to do some of the basics, the foundations again. And I highly recommend that as a practice, but then also find some things that you love to work on and start to do practice with those too. So this one is all done, and I am super proud of it, because even though I had trouble with it and it took me a couple of days to do, and I will never get that back in what I get to charge for something like this, I had a blast. Just the experience of burning the wood, the smell of it, and the fact that I was on kind of break-ish, even though I was filming. I was kind of on break for a couple of days, made me happy. So let's look at other mediums and how this same thing applies. And I'm just going to do a rose, just a random rose. And I've drawn a line down the middle so I can split it in half and do part with graphite and part with colored pencil, so I can kind of see how these principles work. Notice the lines that I'm doing are very sketchy and loose and varied, because that gives me the freedom to mess with the lines. Not only can I change them if I need to and move something over if it doesn't quite look right when I start putting shading in it, but it also gives me the ability to have some edges that are going to drop off, that are going to be so light, so pale that they disappear into the white background. And I can put in shadows that I can control. I can decide when I want to shadow and get darker with it. And I'm working around the lines, but I'm putting values that are of the same level of light dark next to places where there are darker lines. So there was a little dark spot at the top, and I just put a little bit of a midtone, light midtone in there to hide that line. And I'm leaving some of the other lines out there because those can just drop off into outer space. That's perfectly fine for them to do. When there's a darker place, there was a petal that will curl around here. So I can create that petal by just putting darker value in it. Even though I had a sketchy, weird line in there, I could compensate for that by darkening the petal. And then creating my own darks around the entire piece so I can anchor the bottom of the rose and just make it feel like it's, got some heft to it. But I didn't have to fight all those lines because the lines were broken. Now, this is why if you're a stamper and you've used the technique called no-line stamping, which is actually implied line means you're implying that there's a line there without making a line there. You're making a shape there instead of a line there. It's related to negative drawing. And negative drawing is drawing the space around an object. And, all of these things are intertwined. So even though you might say, well, I'm just a stamper, I only color things in coloring books or whatever, belittling comments you want to make about the kind of art you do, these things are still important. If you want to do coloring book pages that look really elegant, then find ones that have thinner, more elegant lines to them. And there are some that even print in a halftone line so that you can get those interesting edges. Whereas when you're doing something with a really big, fat black line in it, it's really difficult to get that to look realistic. And I fear for our brains when I hear people looking at something that has big, chunky lines, and they see some good shading within those chunky lines, which is great, but they see that and they think realism. Realism doesn't have any chunky lines around it. If you look at any object around you, there's no outline around it. There's just one shape meeting up with another shape. And there are different values. If they were all the same value, you'd run into walls. So you need different values in order to make different shapes appear. But you need to actually have those shapes next to each other because nobody's going to be looking at the lines. And here was a little color theory just for kicks, just to throw that in there because I love me some color theory and, any kind of foundations of art that I think are important. Well, these two, red and green, are complementary colors. So I can use the green to add some darkness, some shadows into the pink. Just go over top of that green with pink. I hope this was a helpful reminder of the foundations of art and how important they are in all mediums, and maybe it gave you a little inspiration for a piece you're stuck on where the lines are just getting in your way. Now you know how to get rid of them. Just match the value as best you can alongside that line, and it should just melt into the color you've got going on. So that's it for me. Thanks so much. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't. And I will see you again really soon with another video because that's how I roll around here. Take care and go create something every day. I'll see you later.